Welcome to Face the State. I'm Arianna Bennett. Thank you for joining us. Well, do you ever get into political discussions with friends or family members and find that you can't even reach a baseline of what's true and what isn't? It's a problem we're all facing as we increasingly get our information from millions of different sources online, not all of which tell the truth or even know the truth. So how do we fix this problem? Jody Baden and Steve Mulvaney with the News Literate Community Initiative are here with me to talk about that. Thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I'm excited to talk about this. It's a bit of a passion issue for me, obviously, as a journalist. But I'm curious about why you two formed this, or why you're doing it. Give me the why.
You know, I've been thinking a lot about all the divisiveness in our country. And it's like, why is this happening? And so I read a Pew Research article recently that said, most Americans think Republicans and Democrats can't agree on basic facts. Now, this is a problem. So somehow we have to get to facts. We can have opinions, but we have to get to facts. And I don't have the facts. I'm not an expert in news literacy, but I know it's important, and I know what happens when you don't have it, which is where we are, without agreement on basic facts.
Yeah. Steve?
Yeah, let me give you my perspective. When Jody called me, told me what she was up to and said, you want to sign on and help me with this, I didn't hesitate. Since my retirement from the school district, I've been pretty actively involved with the National School Public Relations Association. One of the services that the organization does for districts around the country is to come in and do a kind of a communications audit, a real deep dive into how well they're communicating both internally and externally. And recently, I'd say maybe within the last 3 to 5 years, one of the real challenges that school board members and superintendents are having is dealing with all the misinformation that parents have, who then come to school board meetings and yell and scream with really a set of facts that are completely in error, and sometimes even intentional disinformation, you know, kind of designed to take whatever initiative they're opposed to and put it to the side. So it was kind of personal for me. I was in a position of trying to give some guidance to districts about what the heck do you do with the problem? How do you solve that?
Yeah, and I don't think this is something that's unique to education. I think we see it really illustrated in some of these more contentious board meetings that are happening, not just here, but across the country.
Yep.
But I'm hearing this from professionals in a lot of different industries, especially public-facing ones, where their biggest driver, especially to come on this show, is to be like, I need to myth bust. I need to tell people what's actually happening, because that for some reason believe all this stuff that isn't true. We don't know where it's coming from, but we want to set the record straight. And that's just been increasing the longer I've been in news, which would kind of suggest that this problem is getting worse. That's scary.
It is getting worse. And I was talking to a pediatrician from Renown about this project. And he said, I'm so glad that somebody's doing this, because we spend about half our time dealing with misinformation. And you know, that impacts health at every level, the personal level and even at the public level. So I think there's a big, as you say, this affects many, many industries and many, many aspects of our lives, including financial. So people have all kinds of misinformation that they're making important decisions on, and they need help distinguishing simply fact from fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to function at all on the internet without that healthy skepticism, but that doesn't come naturally. If we're learning anything from the studies that have been done, it's not even unique to any specific generation. They used to think it was an older generation problem, but it's not. The younger generation has just as much trouble on the internet as the older generations with distinguishing fact from opinion, from this mix of infotainment to straight out disinformation, as you said. It's an interesting, multifaceted issue. Why then, from your perspective, approach it in this kind of grassroots way that you've organized?
Well, you know, the News Literacy Project, the national organization, does a great job devising K-12 curriculum. They're in the schools, they have projects going in some schools, they have fellowships for teachers. And I realized that's the long game. You know, we have to teach the young people how to deal with all this information and misinformation. But looking at in the short run, it's the adults, the people that are over 18. And so we realized that that just wasn't being addressed. And no matter what your education level, no matter what your industry, you're faced with trying to figure out what's true and what isn't, distinguishing fact from fiction. And so, you know, our goal is not to tell people what's true. We don't know what's true necessarily. You know?
At least not all the time.
Not all the time. Sometimes we do. But, you know, to help people with skills that can help them distinguish fact from fiction. You know, most young people have a lot of trouble distinguishing opinion from news, from entertainment, from propaganda. And, you know, until you can start with that, you're going to be confused. It's going to be confusing.
It's not just young people. I mean, it's tough for my generation as well. I grew up watching NBC, CBS,
Walter
and ABC, you know, Brokaw. The explosion of social media, the vast array of sources of news now, I think, is a large part of the problem.
It's the whole problem.
It may be the problem.
Yeah, I would argue it is the problem.
Yeah, so, but even me, I will see something on Facebook, or I'm skimming through X or Twitter or whatnot, and I see, well, it seems to be real, it looks honest, and then later I find out through another source, nope, it was completely bogus, but I was sucked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's happened to all of us.
Sure.
This concept, I think, and we learn this in journalism school and then through the repetition that we do in the practice of journalism, but this is one field, you know, where we specialize in this, is to kind of hold everything in this intellectual escrow, where you hear a thing, but until you get enough sources to verify it, it just gets held in this little pocket of like, I'm not going to integrate you into my bank of knowledge. I'm going to put it there in the idea space and leave it there until I can verify it or dismiss it. But psychologically, brains don't do that naturally. That is a muscle you have to grow. And so the problem that we have is that when you hear something, you internalize it without even realizing that you're internalizing it, and then you forget where it came from. So you have trouble coming back to the source. And so in journalism, we learn this, and I have been arguing for many, many years that everybody needs a baby level journalism to get those muscles built. So when you hear anything, the joke is, if your mother tells you she loves you, get a second source in journalism. Like, we need to be applying that to everything we hear, period. So how do we do that? What is the plan here for getting this out into the public?
Well, we have right now 3 ideas about how to do this, and this is you're in on the ground floor. Lucky you.
Yes.
So, you know, one of the ideas that we have that's been used in a lot of places to carry different messages is an ambassador program, trained ambassadors. So these would be adults that are interested in media literacy and news literacy, trained to deliver content to interested groups, parent groups, service clubs, church groups, whoever might be interested. And I think that can go a long way, because those face-to-face things, they're hard to replace with the internet. You know, you can do a lot of instruction virtually, and certainly that can be an option. But we think the face-to-face will really spark a lot of conversation. So that's one piece of it, the ambassadors. Now there's an annual observance of News Literacy Week. It's the first week in February. And so the libraries have really pretty much held this as their domain. But we want to help them push it out to a bigger community. And our job is really, we don't really see it as giving people a lot more work to do, but showing them how they can integrate these tips, tools, and skills in what they're already doing and maximize their efforts. So that's the third part. And the fourth is a summit. And we had a meeting recently, a planning meeting of stakeholders, and they're very interested in a summit, a panel of journalists, educators, maybe political science folks, maybe in the spring, because by the spring, people will be getting ready for the primaries, and they'll be bombarded with advertisements. So those are the 3 buckets that we're looking at now, and there was a lot of interest in this recent meeting, and I'm eager to see, you know, what happens with that, because everyone you talk to thinks this is needed, very needed.
Nobody wants to be bamboozled.
No, no.
Nobody wants to feel that way.
Right. Who wants to be tricked? You know?
Or to be spreading information, at least most people, although more than you think are okay with it, spreading information that isn't true.
Only 38% of adults admit purposely sharing false information.
That's a really high number.
I know.
You said only.
It is. That's why I'm being
38%.
facetious.
And you know
I'm
what,
being
Jody? I was so
facetious.
proud of you too, because I went through your press or your slide deck, and you cited your source, and you quoted that, and then you had this, and I I love this,
okay,
and
good.
that's what we should be looking for, is the primary sourcing.
Exactly.
So I went to your primary source and I read the
Okay.
study. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're
Like, this is what we need to be doing. Lesson number 1 in media literacy is
Yeah.
go back to the original sourcing. Steve, you were sorry. I
Well, yeah,
interrupted you.
I mean, that's part of the skill set. Where did this come from? What do I know about that source? Who's funding them? Who's paying the bills? Can I find the same information somewhere else? Maybe even 2 or 3 other examples. Once you go through that, then you've got a pretty good idea. Well, I'm going to tentatively kind of hold on to this as fact until I see something otherwise.
Yeah, and then the last piece that I would add to that is there accountability or consequences if they're wrong?
Oh, bingo.
So for me, if I knowingly spread misinformation, that is a violation of the law. Like, it is a crime. And I would lose my job. There are real consequences if I lie on the air, if I spread false information. And on the accountability piece, if you watch our newscasts, you know if we get something wrong, we issue a correction. If you are not seeing that in your sourcing, you should not be using it as a source of information. And it's a pretty easy metric to just say, are there consequences? If this person, if this TikTok influencer is wrong,
Right.
or spreading inaccurate information on purpose, are there consequences?
Right.
No. All right.
That's a big thing.
That's a really good opportunity for us to take a quick break. We have plenty more to talk about, so sit tight. Coming up on Face the State, I will be back with Jody and Steve to talk more about media literacy and how to get it into K through 12 schools. Stay with us.